part of your land going again. And you can do it with all these natural materials, you know. By laying all this juniper down, I'm really providing a lot of ecosystem benefits to this little micro area here that I've put some treatment in. You notice I didn't get rid of all the juniper. I've kept some of it. If it's not really competing with anything and blocking out sunlight, and I could just get enough of it thinned out and get way more sunlight in here, I can leave. I'm going to leave some of that juniper. It's good to leave some of it in here. I'm not trying to eradicate it. It does have lots of benefits. This is also a area that is known to have some golden cheek warblers, and they like that big. That's another video. I'm not trying to make this about that, but we'll talk about that in another video. But they like that more mature ash juniper that has the real pilly bark. And not saying that that's it, you know, that ash juniper is qualifying for that. But again, we're just trying to thin it out. We're trying to get more rainfall to communicate down to the woodland ground level, to the soil, and infiltrate and moisturize the soil for these beautiful blue oaks in here. And then berming it up and also just creating a lot of mulch and reducing the temperature. And hopefully over time we'll get more herbaceous and grasses coming back in here, because you'll get more sunlight, more moisture, and it'll start to act more as a sponge ecosystem instead of everything just running off through here. Like you see, there's no herbaceous, it's just exposed soil and rock. And you can see where all this, there's been lots of erosion over time in here because you don't really have any herbaceous material. And let's look at this. Look at this ash juniper here at the base. See all the roots that are exposed? You got all those roots exposed. That's how much erosion there's been in this area, because there's no, over there, look at all the grasses growing. There's sunlight in there. There's opening in there. And so you got a lot of herbaceous grasses growing, native grasses growing in there, and it's holding the soil together. And it's keeping things, it's catching water, soaking in, recharging, not letting all your soil run off. But then you get over here and it's so shaded out that you can't get any grasses in here, and then you start having excessive sheet flow and major rain events. And yeah, the cedar builds up the soil, makes it extremely organic, and it's really prime soil. But what good is that going to be if it's all just going to sheet flow off, because there's no herbaceous stuff in here to hold it in? And then you're going to lose all that organic soil and have nothing but exposed rock, and have a big slope rock going down into a bench area right there. Okay, and even that ash juniper is kind of, again, this kind of gets to reading the land. You're reading the land, and the land will tell you a lot of things. That's telling me there's been a lot of erosion here over time, and there should be herbaceous material growing in here to hold this soil together. And this area is lacking with rainfall and herbaceous material. It's actually losing soil. It's just not in a healthy state, and we're trying to reverse that. We're using these ash juniper methods to try to reverse that, try to change what's going on here. Okay. All right, let's move to the next area of discussion with ash juniper management to improve wildlife habitat and ecological eco-services on your land. Especially, this is Edwards Plateau in the Texas Hill Country. So for all you landowners that own land out here or just enjoy these types of topics, because these can apply in a lot of different areas, not just the Edwards Plateau. Oh. So we're going to walk down this ravine here. I'm going to be very careful. It's pretty steep. A lot of limestone rock here to navigate through. Very beautiful down here. Yep. Just stick with me, everybody. I'm getting there. I want to take it easy getting down through. I don't want to start rolling down this thing. All right, we are gonna hop the fence here. This fence is in real bad shape. Here's another area where I just, knocking down juniper to get it off the fences, to keep the fences healthy and not continuing to be degraded. That's not what we're going to get into in this video, but still got to walk through here back into this little sodal area. Now we're down into the wet weather creek, which means this is just a ephemeral creek. Okay, we're just looking at an ephemeral creek, which means that it's only wet in major rain events, high volume rain events. Any other time it's just going to be dry. It's not a spring-fed creek. It's not perennial. If the water table gets high enough, I do start having springs, but the water table has to get really high out here, which means we have to get a tremendous amount of rain in a short period of time to get those springs to flowing. They're just temporary springs. But I'm going to make some later videos on this creek. I'm going to do some treatment, cost share stuff on this creek at a later time. And it's going to be doing stuff with rock structures. Those will be some separate videos that we'll get into. And those are going to be some really cool videos eventually on this channel that we will film and make and talk about and everything. Okay, let me get over here because I want to show something that's pretty important. Another treatment area that I thinned out. A lot of cedar slash I laid down in here just to act as mulch and to reduce the temperature and catch materials and hold in the moisture. This is a excuse me. This is a cedar elm here, and a couple of cedar elms, and then a blue oak behind it. Spanish oak over there. Kind of diverse here. And then you're seeing the rock ledge here, big boulders and all that, all up and through here. Pretty cool stuff. So this is pretty steep cliff area. You could say this is kind of like a cliff. And very steep, big boulders and all that kind of drops off. So as I've come in here and removed all this juniper in this little small section of the ranch, a lot of this bigger juniper, I've contoured it and laid it out in a big linear berm, ash juniper berm that follows the contour of this ledge. But down here on the flat part, you don't want to build these berms, these linear long berms. You don't want to put them up on the hillside, up on the sloped area. You want to get them down here where it breaks off of that slope and goes flat. Okay, the break line. You can kind of, you got slope. It's coming down, sloping, then all of a sudden it flattens out. And that's kind of the break line. Well, that's where I want to put these. I want to start constructing these on the flat part, coming off of a slope, and then I want to follow the contour. And I can just build, and put, and you also want to put these, when you cut these small junipers down, you want to put them perpendicular to the water flow. Okay, you don't want to put them in here parallel with water flow. You want to put them into longwise. See how they're going perpendicular? So you can think of, the water's going to hit them. The water's going to hit perpendicular. Okay? You don't want to turn this and it be parallel. You don't want to turn it and it go parallel with water flow. You're making kind of like a check dam, if you will. I don't like the term check dam. They're not really check dams, but some people might call this an ash juniper check dam type of method. It's not really that. It's berms that are going to catch the water flow in major water events, and it's going to catch all the runoff and all the soil and deposition and catch all the leaf litter that's flowing down with the water. And it's going to build up on this side over time. On this side, on the water flow side, this is going to accumulate with litter, different tree litter, branches, leaves. It's going to turn into a compost and then a mulch. It's going to feed the soil. You're going to have a lot of this soil that's going to leach out with the water flow, and then it's going to get caught here and it's going to start building up, and then eventually this will become a very healthy, highly organic area where other plants will start to find their way in here, and you'll start basically promoting more diversity with your plant community, essentially by building these and catching more water and helping to soak it in and infiltrate it into the ground table, where it's raising your water table and not allowing all this water to run off your land into these dry creeks and major rain events and losing your soil and water with it. That's not what you want. You want to, remember, we talked about hydrological cycles a while ago. We want to get that back established on the land. We don't want it to be in this erosive, degrading state of being nothing but a monoculture of juniper all over the place, where it's choking out the hardwoods and competing for resources. And even though it builds up the soil, it still has other things about it that are countering that soil buildup. Now, here I will say this, and again, this is where you have to kind of be strategic and put your thinking cap on a little bit. Be a ecosystem manager, if you will, or an ecosystem engineer on your own land. If you have a lot of juniper in a very flat location on your property where there's no slope or anything, and there's not really a lot of hardwoods or anything that are growing in that area, and it's just pretty much all juniper, it's probably good to go ahead and maybe keep that juniper to some extent. Maybe thin it out a little bit, but you want to keep a lot of that juniper, because